And let's finish up the 12th chapter of The Key to the Indian An Iroquois Doll. Guion and Omri and their father, who I think this is the first time we learned that his name was Lionel, but I may be wrong, did not make it to their camping trip. They were all in the car with the exhaust running, and so their mother thinks that they all kind of had carbon monoxide poisoning. Meanwhile, Omri's father has told him that he was inside of a doll with no face, and we'll pick up from there. He asked if I could hear him. I nodded. Then he said he was sorry. Bright Stars had made dolls for us to come into, but they were Iroquois dolls. He said, Iroquois make doll without face. Maybe it's part of the religion. Maybe Bright Stars won't agree to make dolls with faces for us. Dad, I don't want to go back and have no face. I don't want to go again at all. It was... He broke off, and then just sat still for a while. We've been to India, Omri mentioned at last. This extraordinary information, he felt, hardly competed with what his dad had been through. What? Yes. Well, tell me. Back to my great-grandfather Matt's time. Guion went too, because he was leaning against Matt's old knapsack, and that took him back. We were puppets, but Guion was a girl puppet. His father's mouth twitched. He must have loved that. It seems more random when you go back, because there were no plastic figures then. The magic has to work on whatever there is. Just bung you into something. Is Guion okay? His father abruptly remembered to ask. Mum's taken him to get an x-ray, but I think he was just knocked out. Tell me about India. Omri said, It's too long to tell now, Dad. What we have to do is plan. Did Little Bear say anything else? Just that we should hurry up and come. Properly, both of us. He seemed very disturbed and anxious. He promised there'd be, well, faces next time. They looked at each other. You didn't mean it when you said you didn't want to go back, Omri asked anxiously. Because we'll have to risk it. We must go back and help them. We absolutely must. By the time Omri's mother came back with Guion, now with a dressing on his head and looking a lot better, they had made a sort of plan. But Guion was now a major worry. We can't take him. We can't possibly take the risk. There won't be a third man-toy ready for him. But now he's been back once. Maybe he won't remember. Maybe his knock on the head will have made him forget. It hadn't. But what it had done was make his adventures in India go rather fuzzy. And, as he had had no notion of the magic before it overtook him, he rationalized that the whole thing was a dream. He was full of it. It was he who told the parents the story of the Indian adventure, though in rather garbled form. Omri kept absolutely quiet. It wouldn't do to admit that his dream had agreed with Guion's. But their mother was too busy fussing about what had happened to put them all to sleep in the car to take it in. His dad, however, listened in wonder and fascination. Isn't that just the weirdest dream you've ever heard, Dad? Guion said at the end. I could tell you a weirder one than I had, said their father, but you'd think I'd lost my marbles completely. Fumes, said their mother shortly. What? They all asked. Fumes, exhaust fumes, it must have been. That's the only possible explanation. There's a leak of some kind. You were all breathing carbon monoxide, and you all passed out and had delirious dreams. And if the car had been in a closed garage, maybe even if I hadn't come out, when I did, you'd probably have all died. And that car had its service 2 weeks ago. Just wait till I get it back to that garage. Omri was hugely relieved that she hadn't believed a single word of Guion's story. He didn't believe it himself. The only thing that seriously bothered her was how Guion got his head injury. That was one of those little mysteries that was destined never to be solved. And that's the end of Chapter 12.